There are many, many costs of climate change, and at the moment we have a huge gap between the funding that's being provided to developing countries to meet these costs, what the actual costs are, and that gap is only going to grow.
We have to succeed on the three pillars to have a decent package of finance in Paris in December. The first one is how to get to the 100 billion. The second one is something specifically on adaptation for the most vulnerable countries. And the third one is how to reallocate private capital to finance a 2 degrees economy.
Well, we've just been talking about two very concrete proposals that we think can be agreed this year, both by the European Union. They'll put big new amounts of money on the table in time for Paris, could really help to unlock an agreement. What are they? First one is a financial transactions tax. That's getting very close. The French President Hollande has already said we want to use a portion of those revenues for climate finance. We now need to get the other European countries that are going to do this with France to make the same kinds of commitments. That's going to be big new money ahead of Paris. What's the other one? Is to reform the European emissions trading scheme to make sure that some of the revenues that are generated by the auctioning of emissions allowances, so that's basically saying all of the permits for the amount of pollution that you can have in the European Union, they get auctioned, the money that gets raised, a portion of that should go to climate finance. It's a technical proposal that we've worked on that basically says that you can take some of that money before it goes into the European country treasuries. We can keep some of it at the European level and send it directly to the Green Climate Fund. So those are just two examples of very concrete, politically deliverable options. They're there on the table, and we're looking to the European Union to step up and say, we're going to do that, we're going to do it before Paris, and we hope that's going to help us to get a good deal at the end of the year.
We've got to develop on a low carbon pathway. That's mitigation. We've got to adapt to the impacts of climate change we can adapt to. But now that climate change has gone beyond what many people can adapt to, we're moving into the loss and damage era of climate change. So at present, we're in the really unfair scenario where we have the big fossil fuel companies who are causing the problem of climate change. So they're digging up fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas. They're selling it for a profit. They make trillions of dollars a year in profit. But poor and vulnerable people are the ones paying the real costs of their products. So they're the ones paying for climate change with their lives, with their houses, with their farmland. So what we really need to do is to flip that equation so that we actually have the fossil fuel industry paying for the damage that their product is causing. So our proposal is that we have a global fossil fuel extraction levy every time a tonne of coal or a barrel of oil or a cubic litre of gas is extracted. A levy is paid on that into the international climate change mechanism that will fund the poorest and the most vulnerable people to deal with these worst impacts of climate change.
We only got the financial transaction tax onto the table because of civil society. We built a big coalition of development agencies, of climate justice groups, of trade unions. It's a big, powerful movement, and it's not been easy. We've been doing this for several years. We had a great branding around the Robin Hood tax. We've been doing the stunts with the Robin Hood hats and bows and arrows and all of this, and we've had to maintain that pressure over several years to really build it. That's the kind of pressure that's needed, and we can't all go away now.
The window of opportunity for a political decision will be between June and September. So I heard all the civil society organizations, all the activists in Europe and beyond
we need to see that through on the financial transaction tax, still sending the letters, making the phone calls, getting the articles in the newspapers to make sure that the other European leaders make the same kind of commitment that the French president has done. And then we need to replicate that for all of these other sources of finance that are necessary, because there's no silver bullet here. There is no easy solution. We just got to keep working as civil society, keep building our unity, keep building our power, keep putting the demands in front of our leaders and keep pushing until they deliver on those.